limits in the background.
Good morning. I'm Inga Cotton, and we have a repeat guest. We have Bekah McNeel, who's a guest author. She has her own blog called Hall Monitor. So I'll fly that up. So Bekah has her own site called Hall Monitor. She writes for the 74 Million, which is a national publication about education, many other sites. But we're really lucky that she writes guest posts for SA Charter Moms. And since April, she's been writing about special education, 2 different posts a month. And this month, both posts are related to dyslexia. And so we're going to have a conversation about these 2 posts about dyslexia. The links are in the description of the video. So I encourage you to like read them and dig deeper, click on the links. So one of the posts was about an organization called Celebrate Dyslexia, which wants families to look at dyslexia in a different way, hoping that will lead to more identification of children who need dyslexia support. And the other post was that Bekah survived a dyslexia simulator experience. Barely survived, yes. So, and I've done that as well. So, but Bekah did a really good job capturing that experience. So, Bekah, is there anything about your bio or about sort of your pandemic parenting experience that you want to share with us?
I mean, now we're in summer, so it's more of the same. But usually you come into summer like, oh, thank goodness, I'm ready. I'm ready for a break. I'm ready. And now you're kind of like, yep, 2 more months of this. But yeah, I thrive on routine, and we've got ourselves a little routine, and I feel like with that going, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and it helps to have, I know for us, like our pod is not strictly our nuclear family, that we have a few members of the extended family who are also part of the pod. So we still feel safe because all of us are being careful and it's a small group, but it's not just
the quarantine.
The quarantine, yes.
Half of our, we had a really great thing throughout like April, May. We've got some friends from out of town who would come in like every 2 to 3 weeks. So it was perfect because we could see each other, and then everybody goes their separate ways, for 2 weeks, and then we'd see each other again. But they went back they're from another country, so they had to go home. And once the flights finally, we had the benefit of them because they were stuck here, which is really not fair. Like it was all win for us, but they finally went back. But so we've had to, we've reshuffled our quarantine a little bit.
Yeah, but we still,
grandparents, so we have to be extra careful.
Yeah,
Lewis and I still aren't back at, like, he doesn't go to the office. We're still not grocery shopping. Like, we're still doing, because the grandparents are part of the mix, and that's ups the level of security around here.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's all about, like, it's between, let's see, I pick up groceries at Walmart once a week, and every few days Mike gets something delivered from Whole Foods. And then we have like a sort of farmer's market bag that we get delivered once a week. So that's our food supplies. Yeah. And then, Mike's working from home, and he can work from home indefinitely. Like his team was already set up to be able to do that. So, and maybe doing it. Yeah.
It's a gift. It's a truly a blessing. I'm interviewing families who are having to, go back to work now and stuff, and just, it's nerve-wracking for them. And many of them are clamping down on other parts of their life to balance that out.
Right.
Which means that for kids, a lot of times that's like any going out you were doing is now done. And it's, people are making tough decisions all over the place. And but like, huge respect to the people who are making huge decisions to keep us all safe. Other people apparently are not. So
yeah, we were starting in May. We were starting to sort of dip our toe in things like, as museums were reopening, and like we would go, we'd kind of spend more time outside, or spend a small amount of time in an indoor space. And I've gotten back to feeling really anxious about being in indoor spaces, just because.
Yeah, we went to the Whitty.
Is so high. Yeah,
we went to the Whitty on the members opening weekend. It was like us and one other family, and they gave us little styluses, and the head of security there is a parent at our school. And so he walked around with us, and it was like, you had your own staff member, they fixed everything during the, So it was like everything was right and my kids hadn't been out for months, and so they were just like, they watched every single little video. They did everything they were supposed to do. It was like kind of probably how museums are supposed to be done. Like you're not supposed to use the Whitty as your backyard, but during the summer we do because it's air conditioned. And anywho, so we did the Whitty, and there was nobody there, and I was like, we're fine, we can do this. And then the numbers started to go up, and I went somewhere else. I forgot where it even was, but it was like more crowded, and I was like, no, I can't do this. Oh, and I went down to one of the Black Lives Matter marches, and I was like, at first, everybody's wearing their mask, but at first I'm like, this is amazing. And then like halfway through, I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. And I'm like, breathe. Like I remember where we were at like Alamo or Cesar Chavez and like Santa Rosa almost. And I'm just like, I'm going to have a panic attack. I can't breathe. Which is what they were chanting.
Right.
But I was like, huh. And then, you talk yourself through it and you're like, this is going to be fine. This is worth it. This is important, et cetera, et cetera. Finished, no COVID. But I really do credit the organizers of that for everybody. I mean, so careful. Everyone was taking care of each other because that's what these marches are about. And so, of course, they're taking care of each other, and it's really neat. But yeah, all that to say, there was this moment where I was like, okay, we're good. And then I was like, nope, we're not going back. This is nerve-wracking. Right. And I am, like, Lewis and I went to eat at a restaurant, and we got back, and I was like, that was nice, but like, it's not enough yet to like, it's not worth it to me yet.
Like, right. 14 days of like, am I okay today? Yeah.
Yeah. The next few weeks I'm a nervous wreck. And so, balancing it.
This is COVID life, right? Like I would like to things reopen more and feel safe to go, but I don't feel safe. So
no, not yet. Some of the botanical gardens a little bit, but
yeah. And state parks. We're still doing lots of state parks.
Oh yeah. We haven't gotten back out into that. I'm such a heat weenie. I hate the heat so much. I'm used. I don't know why. I don't know how I ended up here. I'm terrible. I get so cranky. So cranky.
Yeah. Well, the last state park trip we did was Garner State Park, and so once it got hot, we just went in the water.
Yes, and that was our last pre-COVID outing. We went camping there. Yeah.
So wait, and actually to tie this back into dyslexia, I think so. When you did the Dyslexia Simulator, okay, so when I did it, it was pre-COVID, and it was in a conference room, and it was let's see, so my friend, I know Sarah was there and Jackie, so shout out to them. And yes, we were at the Impact Guild in a conference room, and there were about maybe 8 of us moms, and then Jasmine was role playing as the teacher. And but when you did it, it was it was on your porch or her porch, and it was like y'all were her porch.
Yeah, so
y'all were socially distanced.
We did it we were more than 6 feet away. It was early in COVID, and it was literally like we had a box of Clorox wipes and everything where we would it was like hospital level precaution.
Well, her husband works as a healthcare worker, right? So
yes,
then they probably I've noticed that.
Like I didn't go through I went around the back of their house. Like the gate was open. There was no I literally think the butt that touched the chair, and then the hand that touched the pencil and the paper was literally the only contact I had with her her
stuff. Yeah, this is how, I mean, like somehow, reporting keeps happening. Oh, I saw, like you mentioned, like at the 74, that there were stories that y'all had queued up to publish in March, and then all of a sudden seemed not relevant, right? And so then they were publishing COVID content, but now they're kind of catching up with, good stuff that was in the hopper. Things like Beth Hawkins, who traveled to California and visited an amazing school, and now those stories are being shared.
Yeah, and it's great. It's we were lamenting this as a staff the other day. It's a little anticlimactic, but still glad those are getting out into the world.
Yeah, because COVID is on everyone's minds, but there's underlying issues, like equity and special needs, and stuff that.
Well, and the worst thing that probably happen is to forget that.
Yeah,
Like if COVID should
Yeah.
push us deeper into those issues, not give us a distraction from them. So
Right.
that's, I think, that's on a lot of our minds right now is, okay, we've all, I don't see the appetite waning for what's school going to look like.
Right.
But, and I sympathize with that because I mean, my kids are in school. I want to know, but the answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
And no matter what your
Yeah.
school district comes out with, you don't know. Like it's only so interesting to say,
Well,
there are
speculating
theories
when,
on what it could be like.
yeah, yeah.
So, I
Right.
mean,
And even if they present what their plans are, then usually it's presented in terms of alternatives. And then what really happens week to week depends on what the circumstances are, right? So I
yeah,
think
like I'll tell
like
you what, SAIC starts August 10th, and we will know August 9th what we're doing. And
right.
they'll have a plan, and they'll, they're already starting to put that plan out there, but like
Mhm.
they don't know.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
talking
As far as what alert
a
level.
month ago or a month and a half. Like we're a month and a half from school. A month and a half would have been like end of April. What did we think was going to happen the end of April? We had no idea. So
No,
we got a
no.
long way to go.
Yeah. And even like in May, I thought there was a trend of declining cases and
There
that
was.
has completely reversed. So yeah,
Yeah.
great. Like, wear your masks, y'all. That's
Yeah. Like,
I mean, my profile
it's
picture is me
fine.
wearing a mask, so
You don't need to do half of the stuff you're doing.
yeah. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. Because yeah. Okay, but as you said, we cannot lose focus on, other issues in education, right? And yeah, we don't know what back to school will be like yet. I will, we'll keep talking about it in the group, we'll keep talking about it on the page, but yeah, at this point we don't know. So, but I mean, I'm glad that we've stuck with doing this series this year
No.
because, I special ed is really close to my heart, right? Because I have a child on the autism spectrum. But I feel like you've covered so many different aspects of it, and I think what's emerged from this is a theme of sort of, right, like if you're a parent and you can tell that there's something's not working and something's not right, like what things should you be checking, right?
Mhm.
I think you've got a couple posts in the pipeline that are kind of more explicitly about that, right? Like
Yeah.
and you've had posts that are like sort of introductory, right? Like,
Mhm.
right, like what are the sort of the behavior supports that you do before you formally get the special ed, diagnosis and do the IEP, right? And then like what do special ed advocates say? Like what is the terminology that parents need to know, right? So I mean I feel like this it's been sort of ad hoc, how we've come up with the topics, but
Yeah.
it's making this really good like body of knowledge. I think that will equip parents. But I think the reason why we picked two posts about dyslexia is that this is a very common situation, and there
Yeah.
are a lot of kids who are not getting diagnosed or they're getting diagnosed late. I mean, that was Jasmine's Dean's situation, right? Was that it was so
Yeah.
late when her son got diagnosed.
Sorry, what do you
Oh, when Jasmine's son got diagnosed, it wasn't until what, like third grade? It was like
Yeah. Well,
years. Yeah.
and it's a story that we hear often, 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 especially with the little boys. Um, this like the the system's willingness to just chalk it up to boyhood. And part of that, I'm like, what is our low expectation of boyhood here? Like,
Right.
no, he's
Right.
just a little boy, so he's not doing XYZ. It's um, like, how low are our expectations for one, and for two, um, even if it's possible that it's a just maturity issue or whatever, like, why not just find out? Why not check into that to make sure that there's not some other narrative that, I mean, the things that kids decide about themselves early, I'm smart, I'm not smart, I like school, I don't like school. Like, why create those extra barriers? Why not just find out? And everybody's like, oh, well, it's money. Well, then we have found money to do a lot of stuff. And knowing what our kids are up against seems like a valuable thing to know. I think you
And
could,
putting this energy towards young children and towards
yeah,
fixing the problems when they are more fixable,
yeah.
right?
It's ounce of prevention, pound of cure kind of situation. Like the money to identify it and start to get some like good reading supports and whatnot. And like that's what's coming next are the like teaching kids to read posts. Because what you realize is that like a lot of this stuff, MTSS, which we talked about a couple months ago, dyslexia, a lot of it comes down to reading support. So like maybe we should get better at teaching kids to read. And that's what you find is that a lot of really excellent reading supports end up being delivered as like remediation. And again, you're kind of like, if we gave everybody this.
Right. And it doesn't hurt like the kids who would have learned it anyway, it doesn't hurt them to get like the really high quality
reading instruction. Yeah.
Right?
No.
Yeah. It's not like it works for some kids and not others. Like it helps everyone. Right.
And that's right. I mean, and I've talked to the folks at AIM about this, is it often kids who learn differently from the way we've decided it is scalable to teach kids to learn. If you're not part of the scale,
Right.
they become the canaries in the coal mine for when we're doing something that is revving the engine for kids harder than it should. A kid like, okay, Moira, my daughter, very brilliant, very extroverted, very sparkly, awesome kid. My son, Asa, very neurotic, and I mean that in like not the derogatory way, but like his
his like clothes, minifigures, like
yeah, or we fixate a lot, but not flexible. So just because Moira's doing okay in quarantine and doing okay during COVID and not, the disruption and whatnot, she's resilient. She's the kind of kid who will make the most of it, whatever. Asa is not. Asa is struggling. That doesn't mean that this is a good situation for Moira. It just means that she's revving her little engine. She's pushing as hard as she can and calling on all of her internal supports to do that. And in the context of our family, where there's a lot of social emotional support, there's a lot of, whatever, I think she's building good skills. This is good, whatever. But it's not a situation that we should just be like unattentive to because she seems okay. Right. We still need to offer those supports so that she can develop. It's not just because a kid is not presenting with struggle, or a kid struggle isn't disrupting your class, or a kid's struggle isn't making their grades so low that they become a problem.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're in an ideal environment and that they can continue like this indefinitely.
I've heard that from parents. They'll say like, well, my child has dyslexia and they need help. And the school's like, well, they're getting A's and B's. And then the parent's like, oh, wait, what? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the disconnect. I was watching the Sam Houston graduation, and the valedictorian got up and said he didn't feel like the administration cared about the students as long as they passed. And when students feel that way, that all their like, they process that as people not caring, and they process that from parents as like, I read a book a while back about abandonment theory and how when kids feel like you are there to like perform a service, or that your love for them is conditional, or your support for them or your willingness to invest in them is conditional upon their results, they process that as a break in the relationship, and that you're not really there for them. You just want something from them. And I think that kids often feel like that from the school system. I think that a lot of kids who I've interviewed and talked to, and parents, just feel like the system wants grades from them. The system wants attendance from them. It wants a bunch from them. But if what they're giving isn't working, they're on their own. Like if what the school isn't giving the kid is working for them, then the parent and the kid feel like they've got to go hunt down supports elsewhere. And if that's how schools want to play it, okay. Honestly, if you want to like put out a service and say this is what you can come here to get, great. But you can't expect then to hold a monopoly on what how kids learn. Like they have to find other things.
Right. You won't have loyalty. You won't have their loyalty. They won't be bringing their best selves to their
No,
work.
no,
Yeah.
you're going to get resistance and you're going to get defection in some cases, you know. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I was talking to a teacher for another great like fascinating story I'm working on for the 74. I was talking to a teacher and we were talking about how disengaging in class is a form of resistance. When a kid feels like
Right.
participating in class is harmful to me and they check out, that's not like, teachers sometimes process that as like, oh, they're being disrespectful to me. But no, it's like their response to feeling it's self-defense. And that's what I think I saw in the dyslexia simulator, is that by the end,
Right.
I was feeling like continuing to try and fail is hurtful. And
It's like you feel so tired and right, like you've been struggling to overcome it and make sense of it, and then but towards the end, and like and the way Jasmine like role plays it, like she's so chirpy and so
oh
positive,
my
but then
god,
it's like, okay, time, okay, you're running out of time. And it's like, ah, like,
I mean, you're supposed to want to punch her. I was like,
right, right.
up in my head, you know, and she knows, I mean, she's doing that.
Oh yeah.
She's good at what she does. And that's the effect that you want. But I could totally hear it. I could totally hear the teachers of my past encouraging my classmates who were struggling. And I'll tell, I don't know about you, when I did it and I could hear my voice and the way that I was reading and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, I sound like so-and-so from elementary school. I sound like so-and-so from high school. And then you start to go, oh my gosh, probably, you know, a whole bunch of people around me were struggling with this like really big barrier. And we
Yeah,
we
it
were
made me feel bad because I just
so,
walked on by and I didn't, but I, you know, when you're a kid, like you just don't know. I mean, that's the
but
point
we
of the
were
dyslexia
horrible.
simulator.
We were like mean to those kids. I have amends to make.
I think that's sometimes how parents feel about like when they find out about their own child's diagnosis, and like and they've been telling them, well, just try harder, you know, or if you'll just concentrate, then, and then you realize, oh, wow, like they really needed like this kind of help, and
Yeah.
until you've, yeah, and if you're a parent, you know, who was a good student or something, then it's hard to relate to your child who's struggling.
Yeah. I think every parent's gone through that. Like the first, when your kids get sick and you don't know that they're sick yet, and you think they're just being little punks. And then
They're
you're like,
just faking it.
oh, that they're just like, when Moira gets sick, she
Yeah.
gets like hostile. Like if anything, if she's hungry, tired, or sick, she's like weirdly aggressive. And the first time that happened, I was like, she was about 1.5. She had an ear infection and I didn't know it. And I'm just like, she's starting to rebel. She's starting to get willful. She's starting to like push back and test boundaries. And let's just dig in harder on the boundaries. Finally take her to the doctor. And he's like, she's got a double ear infection and a sinus infection. And I was like, mother of the year right here.
Yep.
I
In
have
there. Oh yeah.
time out for a
So
whole week.
like eat your breakfast, and then
They
stomach
vomit.
bug. Ah,
Yeah,
that's why you weren't hungry for breakfast.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I think that, I mean,
Yep.
there's a lot of grace there, but we also like this is a lot about reshaping our culture
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand kids better. It's not the
Yeah.
best, like for a long time this has been framed.
That's the title, right? The series title is, you know, towards a kinder world, right? That's, you know, that's why we want to talk about special education. Like, and this goes back to like, right, like things like reading support, or like, you know, that doing instruction in a different way and having a kinder culture, it helps all the students.
It really does. And it's been framed a lot in a like philosophy of discipline, or like like a moral thing, but it's a scientific thing. It's about
Right.
understanding our kids and how they learn. There's nothing,
Yeah.
there's no like
Yeah.
values question, because a lot of it's like, well, they're permissive parents or authoritarian parents. Like, let's move away from that and go, if I know the science of how my kid is developing, if I know the science of how their brain works and what, how to best get them toward higher executive function,
Right.
which
Right.
will make them much more receptive to the values and things that kindness and forgiveness and all those things that we want them to know. If we incorporate like science-based parenting, teaching, science-based
Mhm.
instruction, like it's toward a kinder world and a smarter world, like a more
Yeah. These
effective.
things are knowable. It's not superstition, right? Like
Right.
research can bring us to, yeah.
We
Yeah.
can, we can know some things. And then, you know, deciding which movies you want to let your kids watch when they're 15 years old. I mean, okay. I'm sure there's some science there too, but what we're talking about when they're little and they're learning and, you know, when their behaviors are very much connected to their biological reality, like
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's just we really need to rethink how much we're chalking up to willfulness.
Yeah. 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 So one thing I'm going to make sure that I like how our discussion's been freewheeling and like finding interconnections, but I
We
want to make
we
sure
for a
like
while. That's why.
that I'm like I'm giving people like the call to action of like what they need to do. Okay, so part one, or the first of these two posts is about a lot about this organization Celebrate Dyslexia,
Yeah,
right? And so Jasmine Dean is the founder, and she's the one that you interviewed, and she's also the one who administered the Dyslexia Simulator in the part two post. But so right, but I feel like as a call to action, like we want people to like visit Celebrate Dyslexia, like sign up their newsletter, follow them on social media. Even if you don't have kids with dyslexia, it's just good stuff to know about. And the idea is that if more parents know what this means, maybe they'll see the signs of it in their own kids and they'll seek help younger, and with so there'll be like less suffering and less misery. And then and like Jasmine took a lot of information to the principal at her child's school and actually got a lot of stuff changed, right? They
yeah,
had like higher rates of identification
yeah.
of children with dyslexia, right? And she's pushing for things like having pediatricians get involved in this, right? Am I getting the
Yeah.
details right on this?
Yes, yes. That's I mean,
Okay.
more identification, better support, and just improving the culture around
Yeah.
like the name Celebrate Dyslexia, where it's not like once you're diagnosed or once you're identified with this, like, well, that's the end of your future. It should be more.
Right, but having brains that work differently is actually, I mean,
It's a
like I
strength.
said, I don't have a child with dyslexia, but I do have a child with autism. And getting to know how he thinks, it's liberated me because I see how my brain is wired a little differently. And I don't have a formal diagnosis, but like it's liberated me from things that I felt bad about myself. And it's gotten helped me appreciate things about my brain and people in my family about how we do put our differences to work and to do right. Like my husband works in cybersecurity. I think you almost have to be on the spectrum to be really good at that.
Yeah,
Like the way he sees patterns and things that are like, wait, what?
yeah,
Like you do what? I mean, it's a superpower. That's he's found his niche, right? And
yes,
and so that's like I've always believed in my son and wanted him to excel. Knowing that he's wired up differently, but there are niches in the world that need people like him.
absolutely. I don't. We, given how complex our world is, and two, just they're huge. Every brain is a human brain that belongs in the world. And
Yeah,
it's, you
yeah,
don't have to justify your existence. You can celebrate the things that you can do, but you don't have to go be, you know, an amazing inventor to be a valuable person with dyslexia. You're a human being and there's room for you.
yeah,
And there's like, that's, I think, another big section is like, yes, there's hope. Yes, there's big, you can dream big, go for it. But you don't, overcoming a disability or overcoming a difference or, whatever verbiage you want to use, doesn't mean you have to be the president of the United States.
Right.
You can be you, and your value doesn't change. And so I
Yeah.
think that
Like
that's
life has value and dignity beyond utilitarian. And I think that's
yes,
what, like, it's important to remember that, like, people, the nonverbal people with autism, right? Or people with Down syndrome, like how valuable their lives are, right? That,
yes,
yeah.
yes. And if we've created a world where we have to wonder if they fit in, we've done it wrong, and we need to do
Yeah.
it better.
Yeah. 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 And that's what, yeah, this, being kinder towards people with dyslexia. I hope that that's part of what Celebrate Dyslexia does. Actually, I want to also mention the exhibit that's coming to the museum in the fall, right? So Beautiful Minds, Dyslexia and the Creative Advantage. So this is something that Jasmine's working on, right? So, and it's an exhibit where people will be able to, like, learn about dyslexia. I'm excited about it. I admit I have not been back to the museum since they opened. I know it may be a challenge to present an exhibit like this during
By
COVID, but
January 9th, by January 9th, I think
oh,
we're ready. Like the day before it closes, I'll be like, okay, I'm doing it. And then we'll quarantine for them.
right, right. Maybe we can just put on a hazmat suit and then go to
Yeah.
the exhibit. Right? We'll find a way. Yeah. And then I guess, yeah, and like the Dyslexia Simulator, like she's not able to present that in groups um the way she was before. But
But
I hope there will be,
once she's able to, I highly recommend groups of teachers,
yeah,
educators, parents. Like if you have a group of folks who I think this would have been even more powerful. I mentioned this in the piece that I gotten to do this in a group and had that social pressure, because
yeah,
I mentioned this at the top, like by myself, it was enough because Jasmine is my peer. We're roughly the same age. And so I wanted to impress her. But if I had had a group of people doing it with me and had to like gauge whether I was doing better or worse than the rest of the group, I'd have been toast.
oh yeah, I know. I was looking at everyone else's like star drawings and be like,
Oh,
how did I do? How did I do?
no. Like I don't need to do it perfectly,
It's
but
just
I
human
definitely
nature.
need to be better than the rest of you guys. Which is how a lot of people are wired, and it's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. Yes. That is life being measured. Yeah.
Yeah. To be
Yeah. No,
competitive
I mean,
and have a different, like to be competitive in an arena that wasn't built for you.
that's why, yeah. You have some like bleeped out cuss words in the, the
Huh?
post. You have some bleeped out cuss words in the
Yeah.
post because
Oh no, by the
that's
end
how
it was
everyone
all
feels.
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And screw this is the like PG-13 version of what I was really saying. I'm so
Yeah,
frustrated.
for real. Yeah. 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 Okay. And so any like closing thoughts or takeaways or any like preview of next month's post?
Well, so yeah, like I said, next we're getting just into literacy, and what has come up over and over and over again is that tends to be where the problems show up when kids are learning to read, and it's not just a special ed thing, but there's overlap. I think that this is
Yeah.
literacy is where we start to get special ed out of its silo
Right.
and move it into like if your child is nonverbal or has a physical disability or a something linked to the mechanics of their body, you probably know going into kindergarten.
Right.
Like
Right.
if you have a kid with cerebral palsy or something like that, and you know before they get to kindergarten. This and so the supports are there. You've got the doctors. It's a different situation. You're still fighting for a lot of what you're entitled to within the school, but you're doing so from a place of knowing where you start.
Right.
If it's a learning disability or dyslexia, some variants on the spectrum, it does. This is that's kind of where we've landed this series, is that
Yeah.
realm of things where parents are trying to guess, parents are trying to figure out. Actually, wait, is literacy coming next? Or are we doing?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's science-based literacy instruction is one of them, and then the other one was sort of, I think you used the terms for comorbidities, right? So
Yes.
things that, right? So like if there's a problem with reading, maybe is that a red flag for something else? Right?
Or did I not get taught like that's one. And then the flip side is if I wasn't taught to read in a way that works, am I presenting with a bunch of other things that
Right.
really would be lessened if I wasn't struggling to read? We're also talking about vision therapy.
Right, right. That's in the hopper, but I think that one's gonna get pushed out to September because I've tried to keep like the theme of the month.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but yes, the vision therapy one, yes.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
because my own son went through vision, and actually that's what I need to get him reevaluated. He's part of quarantine is like he refused to wear his glasses
oh
for the
no.
last few months, and I don't know where we're at. So and like I had to pick my battles. So so yeah, but I need to get him reevaluated. But it makes me nervous because even though I mean we're going to the dentist, we're going to the orthodontist, we're going to the doctor's office, it still makes me nervous going to places. So yeah, that's on my mom to-do list is get his. But yes, so but you talked to the vision therapist who treated my son, and you also talked to a family that she had worked with, and what a big difference it made as far as like her school day and taking breaks and things like that.
Yeah. And so anyway, but yes, so next month will be the literacy stuff. And that's, again, is just wanting to give parents, unfortunately, we're just in a place, and maybe we'll always be here, and maybe this is just how it's going to work, where parents have to sometimes be the ones suggesting what could we look at this? Could we consider this? And the more things you have, the more likely it is that one of them will be the solution. And so, but people who are concerned with equity across the board, whether it's racial equity, special like ability, pretty much any cross section of the equity conversation, are concerned with literacy and teaching kids to read, because apparently what I'm learning is that it's like the highest cost. Like if you don't learn to read well, if your instruction doesn't get you there and you don't have the tools, problems compound. And it's also so closely linked to all the other inequities, like income, that kind of thing. So that to me says that there's something in the system that we're not doing right, because there's no biological reason that should be happening.
Right. That if literacy is where the breakdown keeps happening, and that's the one that has huge long-term consequences for people's economics and their health and their freedom, right? That's where the energy needs to go to fix the system. Yeah. All right. So call to action. Let's fix reading instruction, right?
Science-based reading.
Good job.
Up next.
Yes.
Making the world.
Oh, good. Yes. Okay. Well, it's always good talking to you, and we will do this again. I think we have it planned for early August is our next chat, because I'm taking a week off at the end of July. So
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Well, stay safe.
All right.
Take care.